upsetting that in this city, just to get a drop-in open, like we're not even fighting for housing, but some basic human decency is just required. And that we're just here fighting for a drop-in. That's it, just 2 drop-ins. That's what we're arrested for. In response to sexual assaults on our street and violence against women and women who are dying and murdered. Okay, so this is us 5 here who were arrested on November 25th. The battle for 24-hour safe spaces for women and trans people began in September 2013 when a woman was raped by 2 different men in one night as she slept on the steps of a community agency in the Dundas and Sherbourne area. After numerous deputations, meetings, and rallies, the City of Toronto promised to open a 24-hour drop-in for women and trans people. It has been almost a full year since the city agreed to implement permanent 24-hour drop-in spaces for women and trans people, and almost 2 years since the city committed to keeping shelter occupancy rates below 90%. Now as we enter the coldest months of winter, there is still no safe spaces, and shelter occupancy rates are still well above 90%. As direct service providers, we meet with women and trans people who are unable to access safe shelter. Our city shelters are inaccessible, undignified, and overcrowded spaces. They are often full and people are turned away nightly. It's a system of first come, first serve, and one with very little room to accommodate people with disabilities or pets or those seeking safety from violence. We know that what people really need is safe, adequate, affordable housing, but there are 90,000 households on the waiting list for social housing. Low vacancy rates in the market rentals and ever-increasing rents that put housing further and further out of reach. Because of this housing crisis, every day thousands of people need to access the overcrowded shelter system. On November 25th, the International Day to End Violence Against Women, we were arrested for peacefully asserting our right, the right all women have to safety and shelter, by demanding that the city take action to ensure women and trans people have access to shelter and affordable housing. We were violently arrested in a public building while attempting to speak to city representatives about the safe space we were promised. After about 150 supporters gathered outside, the response from the city was shameful. No representative would address us, and worse, our arrest was led by an officer notorious for acting violently against women. During the arrest, some of us endured back bruises, back injuries, and were subjected to misogynistic insults. All of us were arrested and charged with mischief and forcible entry. Several supporters were also treated violently by police, including a 60-year-old Indigenous woman. Today we gather prior to our first court appearance to draw attention to the actions of our city. Its neglect of the basic needs of women and trans people in our community, and its violent response to 5 women who dare to hold the city accountable to its own promises. For some people in Toronto, the lack of housing means life and death. Now, with over 700 names on the Homeless Memorial, 2 recent homeless deaths, over 1,200 missing and murdered Aboriginal women and girls in this country, many of whom have been living here in Toronto, this has gone from a serious issue to an outright crisis. These are systemic issues that need systemic responses. The response from the city and recently from Mayor John Tory does not deal with the immediate issues. While Tory stalls with more bureaucracy, waiting for staff reports and a poverty reduction strategy, shelters continue to be overcrowded with people being turned away nightly, women sexually assaulted, and people dying on our streets. We all need a place we can call our home. We have a right to live free from violence and sexual violence, and we have the ability to take concrete steps to help make this happen. We demand the city immediately open the 24-hour drop-in spaces for women and trans people. Immediately create new shelter beds and seriously commit to making housing a political issue in this city. This cannot be business as usual. The city cannot continue to ignore this very real crisis. If the mayor is serious when he says one death is one too many. Then he needs to act now. Thank you for coming out to support today. Fight to win.
No, wait.